Revolution is the only solution. I am a revolutionary. Powerful words that are recited in Judas and the Black Messiah. I had the opportunity to see this at Sundance this year, and it was one of my most anticipated films. Does it deliver? This is the story of Fred Hampton, the chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, and his fateful betrayal by FBI informant William O'Neill. For someone that was not very familiar with Fred Hampton, this was educational for me. Daniel Kaluuya was amazing. He's channeling Lawrence Fishburne with his voice, which is great, but he's commanding, but not overbearing. He was able to display power and strength with an amazing amount of care and compassion. I found him to be pretty sympathetic and even relatable. He was a young man who saw the extreme problems of racism facing his community, but also of communities he wasn't even a part of. I found it enlightening that Fred Hampton was able to unite activists, or what he would call revolutionaries, from diverse backgrounds and locations all around Chicago. This speaks not only to his charisma, but also the power of the message and the need for change. Lakeith Stanfield is William O'Neill. He's the Judas in this story, and what a performance he brings. I mean, he really plays the reluctant informant well. We can see the fear and the trepidation in his eyes. His mannerisms are conveyed well with small bodily stutters, and then even over-enunciated objections or bravado. He has to demonstrate a full buy-in to the beliefs, even though he's not shown that he is totally on board or even invested in what Hampton is trying to achieve. He is wildly believable as a man forced to be the Judas, though. And at the end-credit scene wrap-up, it's devastating and shows the real toll this took on him. Dominique Fishback plays Deborah Johnson and displays such wisdom and intelligence. I loved her. She joins the Black Panther movement, but also becomes romantically involved with Hampton. And I love that she challenges him, but also builds him up. She brings tenderness and strength and a fierceness. Jesse Plemons plays the FBI agent Roy Mitchell, who forces O'Neill into becoming an informant with the threat of federal prison. At first, his character comes off like he's trying to do good, and I even like that he is quite conflicted when directed by J. Edgar Hoover to continue to get more info and by any means necessary. But as the story progresses, Mitchell grows more and more insincere and manipulative. He's slimy because he's doing things that go against his conscience, but he's still doing them. The way the story is told is very engaging. I mean, it gives us a straightforward snapshot, and we don't need the ramp up of Hampton finding his voice or just starting out. We see him rising to popularity and influence, using his voice to better those around him, and to bring about change when those with power won't. It's pretty scary at how relevant this movie is today. The messages that Hampton was addressing could very well have been delivered in just about any month in 2020, and before, and unfortunately after. Even though this is a snapshot into a small period of time, it's packed with a lot of drama and interest. I became very invested in the players and their journeys. Most of the encounters made me mad at the injustice that I was seeing. I mean, this plays out as a very thought-provoking and captivating drama. We have some rich characters, even ones that are flawed, with deception and coercion thrown into the mix. Plus, there's the assault on justice in the name of justice, and that's just sickening. And this isn't even a bash the cops type of movie. It is, however, showing the racism that was prevalent and even overbearing in the Chicago PD, as well as from the highest ranks in the FBI, and how it shaped and directed the actions of law enforcement to quiet and quell the black voice. It's really disgusting to see how these people have the messed up mindset that black and brown people, and then even lower income whites, were seen as less than. They were the undesirables and they needed to be silenced. And the best way to do that is to silence the one leading the charge, who's Fred Hampton. But that was the genius of his message. He didn't want it built on him. For a change to come about, it had to be a mindset shift. There needed to be a cultural change within the United States, and thus the revolution that he calls for. Now, this is a sad story, but one that's really necessary, I think, to see. It shows how when we don't learn from history, we're destined to repeat it. Well, we've never really changed, so we're not necessarily repeating anything, but more of just continuing of a terrible behavior. And don't at me with how there isn't a racism problem in the US. If you believe that, you really need to open your eyes. Racism is alive and kicking and killing. Besides the commentary the film is making, this is also really entertaining. There's drama, humor, romance, action. I mean, there's treachery and suspense. It's got everything that makes a story engaging and memorable. Now, the film is just over 2 hours, and I didn't really feel the time. I mean, it kept progressing in a good way that was efficient and interesting the entire time. While I love the performance of Kaluuya and Johnson, Lakeith Stanfield deserves so much praise for his performance. He was a massive standout for me in this, and I hope that he's really recognized for his work, because he certainly deserves it. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, and a lot of violence. I give Judas and the Black Messiah 5 out of 5 couches. So are you looking forward to seeing this? I'd love to know what you thought of the movie in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.